The music news for the streets, the music news for your beats, the news for the music stuff that you gonna need. We gon' talk about plugins, we gon' talk about gear. If it's news on this music, we gon' talk about it here. Let's go.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your guy, Something. Hit the keys. And in today's video, I want to kind of talk about some of the things you should think about before you go purchase your first piece of gear or even your next piece of gear. Some of these things we talk about often here on YouTube, and some of the things maybe we don't tie to buying a new piece of gear. As you guys can see, I have accumulated quite the amount of gear over my time, whether it's through purchase or doing reviews on YouTube. I've got a bunch of it, and there's a lot of things that I think about when I purchase gear. So the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is that the gear is not going to make you a better musician. So that's just something that you always got to keep in mind. Getting a new keyboard isn't going to make you a better keyboard player. Getting a new guitar isn't going to make you a better guitar player. It may sound a little better in some of the things that you get with this new pieces of gear. Like if you get a new microphone, it may sound better than the other microphone, but it's not going to make you a better singer or a better rapper. It's just going to enhance your performance. And so that's something that you always got to think about when you get a new piece of gear, whether it's hardware or even if you're getting some software. If you're getting a new plugin, the next plugin isn't going to make you the next big Metro Boomin or the next producer or whatever it is. It's just going to help you out a little bit. But it is not going to make you this master musician. The second thing that you have to keep in mind when you are buying a gear and equipment is all of the extra stuff that you have to buy with it in order to make it work. So the biggest thing that you're going to have to buy is going to be cords. These things might become the bane of your existence, especially depending on what kind of cords that you get. So for me, I have a bunch of synthesizers, as you guys can see here in the background. At a bare minimum, to make a synthesizer work, you're going to need 2 1/4-inch cables. So these are going to vary in price. Honestly, I would recommend Midi Gold, but those are expensive. So where these cables right here are $20 for a 5-foot cable, Midi Gold is going to be $60 for a 6-foot cable. So once you start getting up into a bunch of synthesizers, you can see that the cost of cables is going to be something that you're going to have to take into consideration. And then another cable that you're going to need with a synthesizer is going to be these 2 MIDI cables. So ultimately, in order to make your synthesizer work, you're going to need a bare minimum of 4 cables. And this is going to be, you know, at least an extra $60 to $150, depending on the kind of cables that you get. And then if you want to run your synthesizers into your guitar pedals, then you're going to need another set of cables. So that's just something to think about. You're definitely going to need cables. If you're getting like guitar pedals and stuff like that, another thing to think about is not all guitar pedals are going to come with power cables. So you're going to need power cables for your guitar pedals in order to make them work. If you get a keyboard, you might need a keyboard stand. So you're going to have to buy a keyboard stand to go with that as well. If you have like DJ equipment, you're going to need a case to carry all that DJ equipment around. Or if you're a traveling producer, you're going to need a case to carry all your stuff around. So you're also going to need stuff like brush, like this, to clean off your synthesizers, to make sure your synths are clean and stuff like that. So basically you want to think about the cost of everything it's going to cost you in order to make this new piece of equipment work. And do you have everything that you need in order to make this new piece of gear work? So then the third thing I have for you guys is to make sure that you do your homework, you do your due diligence, and you know exactly what it is that you are ordering and what it is that you want. I'll use myself as an example. So if I would have had more knowledge when I got my ASM Hydrosynth, I might not have got the ASM. I'm lying. I would have bought that ASM Hydrosynth or got the ASM Hydrosynth no matter what. But there's just things that I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand what like 8 voices of polyphony meant, you know? So you just want to make sure that you're understanding what it is that you are getting, whether, you know, it's going to have enough voices for you, or if you're getting a microphone, exactly what kind of microphone it is that you're getting, just all of the specs and all the details of everything it is that you're getting, because you don't want to get some new gear, and you being new to the space, or you're just not sure about the synthesizer or whatever piece of gear it is that you're getting. And then once you get this new piece of gear, it absolutely doesn't do what you want it to do. That's like the worst feeling that you can possibly get. Thinking that you have something that's got like 6 voices of polyphony, but then in return it's like a monosynth or something like that. And you can only play one note at a time. So just make sure that you do your homework. Make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting and you're purchasing so that you don't have any regrets later on. The fourth thing that I have for you guys is to make sure that you understand that there is probably going to be a steep learning curve for whatever it is that you get. So with like a lot of musical equipment, there is going to be a steep learning curve in order to learn how to use a synthesizer, in order how to use a pedal, in order how to save presets, in order how to make presets, how to make patches, how to do all this other stuff. It's just going to take you a little bit of time to learn how to use this new board, whether it's a new MIDI board and it's assigning everything to the MIDI board, or whether it's a new microphone and it's just, you know, learning the sound of the microphone, whether it's new monitors and it's learning the sound of the monitors, whatever it is, whatever the piece of equipment that you get, just know that you're not going to be an expert on that equipment overnight, and that there's going to be a steep learning curve, and that you just got to be patient, and practice makes perfect. So the more that you practice and the more that you use these tools, the better you are going to get with these new tools that you've gotten. The fifth thing that I got for you guys is probably one of the most important, and it's something that's probably not even thought about that often. But do you have room for it? So do you have room for a 49 key keyboard? You know what I'm saying? Do you have room for big monitors? Do you have room for a synthesizer? Do you have room for whatever piece of equipment it is that you're looking to purchase? Because, you know, again, there's nothing worse than getting a piece of equipment and then you can't even use it because you have no room to set it up. Like, you get a drum kit, but you don't have no place to put the drum kit. You know what I'm saying? So just make sure that you have room and that you just take a quick measurement. Like, if you're going to get a synthesizer, you know, you're going to put it on a desk, but it's going to be like a 61 key keyboard, then maybe you might want to measure it out on your desk, make sure that you have enough room for it so that, bam, you have no problems later. So then the sixth thing I have for you guys is kind of piggybacking on the back of number 5. And instead of, do you have room for it? Is it the right size? So that's also a big issue in this area of musicians. Well, we'll order something that's just not the right size. So like if you're a keyboard player, and you're getting your first MIDI keyboard, well, you might not want a 25 key keyboard because you can play the keys. So, you know, the right size for you might be a 49 or a 61 key keyboard, or like with monitors, for instance. So you'll always see people will go out and they'll get some Yamaha HS 8s or 7s, but then they'll be in a small regular bedroom and the speakers are just too big for the bedroom. So you spent an extra $150, $200 on these monitors that you can only turn up 30% of the way because the monitors are too loud for the room. And so that's another thing just to think about. You know, is it the right size? You know, should you get 5s for your room? Should you get 6s for your room? Or are you in this big, huge room that requires 8s? So just make sure that you know you got your sizes down. These last two that I have for you guys are also very important. I feel like these are all important notes. But this one right here, I would say, do not buy anything if you are not already productive. So like, don't go out and spend a bunch of money buying gear if you're barely making beats. Like if you're making a beat every other week or a beat a month, you probably don't need to go out and spend any money on equipment because the equipment's not going to make you more productive. Like if you're not trying to sell beats, if this isn't even really a hobby, if you just kind of just barely make music, then maybe your money should be invested in something else. And, you know, I'm not trying to steer anybody away from making music or anything like that. But just if you're already not a productive person, if you don't have, you know, any hustle in you, you know, you might not want to go out and spend any money on gear because it's not going to make you start making music, you know, just like that. And then the last thing that I have for you guys today is that it gets very, very addictive. So gas is short for gear acquiring syndrome. Once you start buying gear, you'll start noticing that you always want to get the next piece of gear. You want to get the next thing to put in your studio because it's going to be the next piece of gear that's going to take your sound to the next level or whatever the case is. But just think to yourself, do you really need this next piece of gear? What is this next piece of gear going to do for you? And then even plan one step after that next piece of gear and think, okay, well, if I get this compressor, what am I going to get after this compressor? And then what am I going to get after that? So then you can start planning it out and seeing if it's feasible. A lot of times we get gear acquiring syndrome, and then we purchase stuff that we don't even need, or that we end up selling again later on, or that we barely ever use, or that we just keep in our studio so that people can see. Just know that gas is a real thing. So that's what I got for you guys. That's 8 little tips on buying your next piece of gear or buying your first piece of gear. Hopefully I can help you guys out with the video. Let me know below in the comments, what's the next piece of gear that you plan on getting, or what's your first piece of gear that you want to get. Make sure if you do like this content though, you drop a whole elbow on that like button, hit subscribe and that notification bell so every time we bring you guys a new video, you can be the first to see it. Appreciate you guys' time as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Some, hit the key.